Just start. Laura Racky. Last week we left off with Queen for a day,
Did
King
we?
for a day. Yeah, but who cares? Because we might come back to that. I would actually like to start fresh with a different topic. We're fresh, speaking of, off big group hug. Double donation day yesterday, which was a phenomenal success and was a whole bunch of fun. Chairman of Big Group Hug, give us some ideas of your reflections on yesterday.
Well, it's a big day. It's actually a very emotional day. You and I often will go out to the warehouse and spend the day there. So as a starting point, it's always like an amazing reminder of all of the hard work that volunteers are putting in there at Big Group Hug. But just, I think, walking around, seeing the goods that have been donated, seeing the packages that are being put together, seeing how busy the request desk is, which is the hub, the epicenter of where all of the requests come from, in the community, from maternal health nurses, social workers, midwives, where, the request desk gets the ask, this is the family, these are the kids, these are the ages, this is what they need. So I always find that quite confronting.
It is very confronting.
Because it's very easy in your day-to-day life to kind of zone that stuff out. It's hard to think about it. But then on the flip side, all the amazing generosity of the day. I spoke to so many people. Some people I know, some people now I've called once or twice, maybe three times in a row every year. You know who it is, you know why I'm ringing. And obviously our own networks and community. And I just was overwhelmed and really touched and incredibly grateful, but also moved. I think it's so easy to live in our day to day, get frustrated, feel annoyed, feel like there's a lot of bad out there, ill will.
Which there is.
Yeah, but there are so many good people. And, we had donations from, $5,000 to or more, or from $5. There were some people, I could see those donations coming through.
And they stack up. And up.
But also, to me, they are both just as meaningful. And so I think it's just so beautiful. And Christian, you're going to have to wind me up because I could talk forever about Big Group Hug. But to see a community get together to say to one another, these kids, these babies, these families are important to us, and we want to show them and we want to do something about it. And everyone just come together and give that big group hug around those people is beautiful. And I wish that we didn't need to exist, but we do.
I'm going to wind you up and put with some stats. And this is something that the numbers that you were given and gave me yesterday. Last month, 779 kids supported.
That's just through Big Group Hug. Yeah.
Right. With material goods and $268,000 of value of the material that was delivered. $268,250,000 delivered. Yep. And 10 billion tons of landfill avoided.
10 tons.
10 tons of landfill avoided.
In 1 month, yeah.
In 1 month. I mean, that is just, when you talk about real and tangible, that's what we're talking about. So yesterday, target was 200, got somewhere near 200, got very, very close.
I think that by the end of the day,
it'll trickle into 200.
Yeah,
at or near, which is amazing.
The partners are still matching the donations till the end of the day.
And we will have some videos about some of those partners who have just been unbelievable. Yep. The support yesterday was staggering.
Yes.
I thought last year was staggering, which it was. This year went to another level. Don't you agree?
It did. And at about 7 o'clock, a really significant number hit our team tally, and it kind of broke me. It pushed me over the edge.
Yeah.
I called the donor and left a rambling, messy. Actually, in the end, I did a voice message.
Right.
And I was crying, and I said, "You pushed me over the edge." I held it together.
It was a big day. It was a very big day.
But it's really touching, and just a great reminder that actually we all can do something. None of us, just because you can only do a little bit doesn't mean that if you...
A little bit is a lot.
Right, in the aggregate. So thank you to everybody who contributed.
It was a hell of a day. It was a
hell of a day. Thank you to everybody who contributes every day. The volunteers are...
They're very shy too, by the way. I was trying to get some of them to interview because we're doing a lot of social media, and then they're all like, oh, no, I'm very busy.
Because they don't care.
Because they're busy. Because they're in there, they're delivering. They're in there for the right reasons.
But Christian, see, it's hard to... What you don't know is they can see the numbers of requests
Yeah.
that are unfulfilled in that day. So they know there is a 6-year-old, a 10-year-old, 2-month-old baby, a mum that's about to have twins that's not ready. They can see that. And if they don't get those boxes ready to go and filled, then it's another day before
these
that
kids think
family gets those things.
Can I
And
tell you a
so,
story?
you know,
Fiona told me yesterday, and she said it on the live that we did. Now, Fiona does outreach to all the schools and universities and whatnot. She was saying that it was around Christmas. I'll be really quick. It was around Christmas. There was a donation around festive season. It was really positive donations, material and financial. And she was like thrilled with how the month had gone. And she's high-fiving herself on the way into work. And then she's like, she gets into work and then she looks, and the first request is a single mother with a baby living in a car. Right? Now, let's try and hold it together here. And she's like, she sort of was like almost guilty for high-fiving herself.
Yep.
And I'm like, no, Fiona, no, because like what you're doing, you have to high-five yourself for it. Because without Big Group Hug and others, these people have nobody fighting for them.
Yep.
Right? Okay, let's
Let's
wind it
move
back a
on,
bit.
Christian.
It's very
I don't have
difficult.
it in me.
Okay. You were very intrigued by a silly man story that happened the
Oh
other
my
day.
gosh. This story needs to be shared with the world.
Look, it was pretty funny. I was doing a school drop-off and this is a good way to change the mood. All right, so I'm going to tell this story exactly
Continue.
as it happened, and you can make
No
your own
hyperbole.
judgment. No, I can't promise that, but there might be a tiny bit of hyperbole. No, this is the truth. So I did a school drop-off. I'm driving the car. It's a bit of a snakes and ladders to get out of the area, as you expect. I pull down this little street that's 10 kilometre an hour shared zone.
Yep.
Walking and driving. Concreted,
It's one of those old...
Richie Rich sort of areas, right? Let's be frank. I'm driving along 10 kilometres an hour. Now, I have a big diesel engine car. It's very loud. So if anyone wasn't paying attention, like it sounds like I'm going quicker than
I'd also just like to say you are not a speed racer in your car.
No.
You are, I would say, from time to time,
driving Miss Daisy.
frustratingly slow.
Yes. So I'm a very careful driver and for good reason. Anyway, so I'm driving along and there's, a group of people of a certain demographic walking down the middle, 4 or 5 of them, maybe 2 couples.
As is there, right? In a shared zone.
Shared zone. They're just sort of meandering down the middle of the road. So I pull up behind them very slowly, gently, and the woman turns around and screams at me, "You silly man, what are you doing? It's a 10 kilometre an hour
Did she
zone."
come to your open window?
No, she was yelling through the front, right, of the window, and she was so loud that I could hear her. And then she came around to the side, this is it, to the passenger side, and I put the window down so I could hear her even clearer. "You silly man, this is a 10 kilometre an hour zone. What are you doing?" I said, "I'm doing 10 kilometres an hour." I said, "If I was going any slower, I'd be going backwards," right?
Did you say that?
Yeah, I think so. And then she's lost it, sounds like me anyway. And then she maybe a touch of hyperbole, and then she's lost it. She's like flinging her arms around like one of those air inflated things at the car yards. And I said, well, the better question is, why are you walking down the street like a bunch of gypsies, right? And she's got Jab's eyes, and she loses it. Like she's basically like she transforms into another species. And she like absolutely apoplectic. You were lost it, right? And I'm like, this is just hilarious to me because there's no danger. Nothing actually happened. But I think what happened was that she was so in her own world, she didn't hear me come up behind her and it shocked her so much. And her first reaction was to be aggressive, right? And maybe they've had 10, 15 cars coming through there being hoons. But I'm just turning around like they literally were staggering down the road like drunks at 9 o'clock in the morning. It was hilarious. So silly man, like she calls me a silly man, which I always find funny because it's sort of like the go-to of a demographic to say, "You silly man."
But
the gypsies were pretty funny. I'm not going to lie.
I'm surprised that didn't diffuse it because were you trying to be funny?
No,
okay.
I was pretty angry.
But to call someone a bunch
Why are you walking down the road like a bunch of gypsies? Right, and that's what I said. Anyway, so she didn't appreciate that. I drove off and got on with my day.
I just love it because no one else in the world would use the expression bunch of gypsies.
No one outside of the Eastern Bloc.
But
no one out of the Balkans.
But, it didn't work on that occasion, but I actually really like the idea of using humour to diffuse that sort of situation where it's just...
Well, it was hilarious to me because, like, if I had been speeding or someone had been, or someone's, that's no funny. School time, all that, like, I am a hawk, on that stuff. I hate people speeding around, particularly school zones.
Yeah.
Like the car was like a greyhound in the box scratching to go faster, right? I was going that slow and she lost it. Lost it. I might say there's a little bit of entitlement in her tone, right? That this is our street and you shouldn't be on it, sort of thing. But she was behaving like a gypsy, so I called it out.
Thank you for that little tidbit.
I wanted to entertain you and drag you out of that malaise of the sadness of the conversation. Now, you wanted to talk about today what we disagree on.
Did I?
I can't remember, but maybe someone said recently that you guys are different on a few things,
Yeah.
and we're like, we're not different. It's very few things we actually disagree on.
Yes.
So can you give me a list of things that we actually disagree on? Because I can't remember anything.
Here's one which we haven't raised or argued about for ages.
Oh, God.
And that is that my view is that incidental exercise doesn't count, like steps and stuff like that.
Ridiculous, yes.
That, if you're inputting it into MyFitnessPal or something and
so you're tracking your movement, you're saying.
And you're adding in an extra 40 minutes that's like spread out over the day of walking, like going to the bathroom or to the printer.
So if you got a pedometer in the old days, you wear it as a clip or something, and now then your phone tracks your steps. You're saying those steps are irrelevant.
Irrelevant. They don't count.
What counts?
I am going for a walk.
So it's the decision to go for a walk in an organised fashion. So this is because like a Mussolini type situation.
No, the incidental stuff is just your base. That is not, you can't count that and pat yourself on the back.
So what if I walk to the bread shop to get the bread in the morning, or walk to the fruit shop? Is that incidental walking?
Long as the walk.
It could be 2,000 steps.
That's okay.
So what's the minimum? So if it's less than 1,000 steps, it's incidental.
I don't know. Why do you have to get so specific on things?
That's a good question. So you
just
think
be right
that it
on the
count.
basic principle.
No.
That it's just little buts here and there. That's not exercise.
Okay. Well, obviously that's incorrect, and I'm happy to disagree on that.
Incorrect.
Well, it is, because if you do,
in your view,
if you do 4,000 incidental steps a day, which I think most people would do close to 4,000, like if you didn't track anything, all you did is the minimum. 4,000 steps would be the minimum for most people. Do you not count any of that?
You can count it as your steps, but you can't be like, I did a walk today.
Okay, so you're saying it's the act. So it's like Rick Rubin type thinking. It's the act of walk. The decision. Oh, what else do we disagree on? Come on, let's see what else you got.
What was the other one that I was thinking the other day? The other one that's a bit more boring, but, we could argue about a lot, is bringing employees on as shareholders in a business.
Now, that is something we have disagreed on, albeit I will say I have softened and come closer to your position on that. Yeah. Isn't it funny how we've come? So let's say
but I still don't like it.
No. So 5 years ago, we would have been like in totally opposite camps, that you would be of the view, I don't want to speak for you, but that if you bring any shareholder into your business, you're inviting trouble down the line. Is that a fair summary?
Don't do it.
Right. Okay. And I'm of the view that the way incentives work, the way human reward systems work, is that if you have elite talent, you should be making them an equity holder as soon as possible as a barrier for keeping them. Does that make sense? Now, at the time, you're like, yeah, of course that makes sense logically. But then when you go play it out over 5 years, what happens? And I'm like, oh. And of course, over years, you see more and more examples of things going right, things going wrong. And I have softened my view. 5 or 7 years ago would have said, I want as many people as possible to have small amounts of equity in the business so they feel like they have ownership in the outcome.
Yeah.
Right. And I still kind of think that way. Like I would love having more people.
But why should they have the ownership? They're not taking on the risk, and they never have.
It's funny. I mean, this is getting into the interesting, if you're interested. A lot of people don't know what it means to be an owner of a business, equity owner of a business. Like that, if you own 0.5%, 1%, 2%, you own nothing. Like you have no rights. You're totally at the discretion of the majority shareholder, right? But people like the idea of being a shareholder in their business.
Okay, but you do have rights, right? You might not have voting rights, but you can cause trouble.
Yes.
right? So again,
But you understand what I'm saying about the people like the idea of having equity in a business.
Although I can be like categoric on my position here, that doesn't mean that I live in this vacuum outside the world of practical reality, right? I document this with clients. It happens often. I understand that it needs to happen. However, a lot of business owners, so flips, because that's the hat I'm always going to wear, right? The business owner hat. I'm not often working for the employee taking the shares.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm popping my collar because this is a new cool look.
I like it.
Yeah.
You go, oh, you got what, 0.1%.
Doesn't look pop.
Guess what? A shareholder has a right to your books and records.
Yes.
All right. So previously, your employee, I mean, you're not going to be untruthful, but they're not seeing everything.
Things you might be into reasonably as a business, you might be buying a car of this cost every 2 years, let's say, and because you've been a sole owner, you haven't had to answer to anyone, and then all of a sudden you got a minority owner who's like, hang on a minute.
And where does the minority owner get their benefit from?
This collar isn't working. I'm putting it down.
Put it down. They get it out of profits, dividends from the shares, which are real profits. Now, you don't get real profits if you're buying a new company car every 12 months or whatever.
And it might be like, why are you using my profits to buy your car?
Right. So it doesn't matter what percentage, you can create trouble. So there's that. You can go to court. This is, I just find this like the sookie person's go-to, but there's a concept called shareholder oppression. And it exists to kind of tip the scales a little bit so that a majority shareholder can't screw.
Bully them, yeah.
Well, that's a nice way of putting it. But it's not bullying, but you could just make a decision as a majority shareholder that
within
just
your rights,
steamrolls over.
Yeah.
And so a shareholder oppression claim means you take it to court and you say, oh,
how's it going?
I have 0.5% that I didn't pay for and I'm not
That was
getting it.
gifted to me.
I'm so tired. I just cannot even.
It's been a long week.
Love everyone, tell the truth. You're getting the truth today.
Who said that?
I don't know.
Was it
Ram Dass's guru. So anyway, there's a time and place for that. And I agree with the need for it to exist.
Shareholder oppression, sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
How, what, I don't imagine that a lot of those ever go the full distance in court, but what's the strike rate on a shareholder oppression? What are your likelihood of success? When the judge be like,
it has to exist. And the tricky part is that often a minority shareholder will consider that they're being oppressed, but there will be, and it might be a very cleverly used tactic that's the issue. But at the end of the day, if there's a commercial reality or a good commercial reason for the decision, I mean, that's not oppression. Just because you're losing out because of a decision, it would have to be that it's just to screw you.
So what if someone, let's say someone's a vast majority owner and they're driving around in a $100,000 car generally, and one day they just decide to buy a $500,000.
I don't know. I have to scrub up on that.
Interesting.
I can't answer that question.
I've never come across it, to be honest. Like of all the times I've dealt with owners and I've never actually
they do go to court. They're expensive. They're expensive cases to run. Yep. Anyway, so all I'm saying is these things exist. Doesn't matter how small the share is. Things change in your business when you take on someone as a formal shareholder. You're accountable, right? It's different. Very, very different. There are things that you might want to do that shareholder can stop you from doing, whereas you
or at least make it difficult to do. Yeah.
Right. And look, you can deal with all these things in shareholders agreement, but at the end of the day, it's like a marriage. And just because that person doesn't have the vote, you're still in a marriage.
Yep.
And it's hard to unwind if things go south.
Yeah, and when it goes south like that, I have seen a lot of times where the partnerships have.
I'm always just like, just give a profit share. If it's about.
Can we jump onto that in a sec, just as far as when it goes south? Let's finish that thought because it's really important. I mean, I remember when we were back doing the ticker show, like pretty much every episode, you'd be like, everyone's all like, friendly until shit hits the fan. And then it's like, where's everyone going for? Shareholders agreement, contract, whatever it is, if it's not done properly. So let's just quickly finish that thought. Shareholder agreement, in your estimation, how important is that you spend money on that, if nothing else?
the most important thing that you do. And the best part actually about doing the shareholder agreement is the process.
So everyone gets to understand.
Yeah, because there's all these, well, why is this clause in here? What does that mean? Well, this is what it means, and this is how it's going to work in practice. And you can flesh out and flush out anything that's going to be a problem.
Because a lot of people don't know what the hell they're getting into, right?
No.
And so it's just
So I
really
think
fair
the process is really important.
Education piece.
On top of the actual signing and having that document for when there's a dispute.
What was the thing I just parked that I said to wait on?
Profit share. And I think now, given that's like 10% of what I would like to say about my views, but
we don't have all day.
We don't have.
We kind of do actually.
A 3-hour on shareholder agreement.
Let's do it.
Oh my God.
Everybody will love it.
I'm bored about that, the thought of that. Let's have the counter argument, Christian. Let's go from the talent growth, the blue sky side of life.
I got to look, and there's two parts. I've got a few guys going through it at the moment that I know that there's two parts of considering: A, investment in your business and giving up a percentage of your business to grow, and B, equity for gun employees. Right now, I've seen literally, and God knows how many you would have seen, but I've seen literally every example now, I think, of those that want to keep 100%, those who are happy to go down to 10%, because Bezos has got 6 or 7 or 8% of his business. Amazon is Amazon because of what it is. It's 1,000,000 times bigger than what it would have been if he just had 100%. But I've also seen what happens when you've got a 5%, 10% shareholder who doesn't know what they're getting into. Their life changes later on, or partners in firms, one of them has an issue, whatever it might be, or just loses their drive, their momentum changes, and they have all sorts of problems dealing with getting them out because the shareholders agreement is, let's say, dog standard. Yeah. So I am gut instinct and advising to get your absolute best talent equity in the business. I know the risks. I know that it can go bad. I think there's a long run up you should have before you do it. And you should be very clear, not dangle it as some never, because if you dangle it for too long and you don't hand it over, they will leave and you will lose them. You think you can string them along, you can't. So be very, very clear from the start and say, by year 7, if you have achieved these things, you will be given favorable rates on buying into this business. These are the conditions under which, and then deliver on it. Because if you rug pull people, the real guns, mate, they've got all the talent.
Talk about.
Let me finish this. No. This is an important point. You know what the worst part of it is? Is if you rug pull them, they will leave at the absolute worst time for you. Because you've invested all this time into them. They become exactly who you need. Your brain is you're moving into another stage of your growth because you've got these people that are going to support you. And one of them goes and you are right back in the hell that you started with 7 years ago. And you don't have the hunger for it anymore. Right? So handing over that equity to those top guns is actually an insurance policy for your future seasonal change in your life. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, okay, let's go back to how you talked about sometimes people don't truly understand what they're getting, but they want it anyway.
Almost always.
Why do they, what is it that is the attraction?
We talked about club membership and tribes and all this sort of thing. I think, okay, there's a couple of things. One, the really smart people understand what having equity in their business is. It's shareholder return if a business is successful. Great. Those people are sophisticated. They know the value. They come in, they go, I want to buy in.
But they'd be happy with a profit share.
Maybe.
Right.
Maybe. Because equity is actually some value and they can sell it or whatever else.
To who?
Good question. Or if it gets bought, business gets bought, they can get a 5, 6, 7 times return. So that, okay. But there are lots of people who would be very happy with a profit share because it's the narrative and the story for them. It's that when they go to the barbecue on the weekend, barbecue story.
I was waiting for when.
And they're like, who do you work for? I work for ABC. Oh yeah, what's it like there? Oh, you do really well, and I got great rewards. I get a share of the profits.
Yeah.
That's actually what they're looking for. A share of the profit, a feeling like they're being rewarded, a bit of extra cash, share of the profits.
Yes.
When you actually go through not only the equity, what an equity holder is, but then if you ever want to become a director, the responsibilities that come with that. Most people, when they read that level of responsibility, run for the hills if they're smart.
Do you know, I've got a presentation on that.
I know. I've
Do you
asked you to do it to companies before.
Do you know what it's called?
Run as fast as you can.
It's called So You Want to Be a Director. That's actually what it's called.
That's right. So I think we're coming to the end of this segment, and what we disagree on. But I don't think I'll ever be able to not advise companies to give their top guns equity, because over a long enough timeline, I think it's worth the risk of the almost inevitable likelihood that one of your people is going to go awry for whatever reason. If you want to hit 15, 20 years in your business, and the only people that ever make money, in my opinion, are the people who do one thing for 20 years, right? And then they start seeing it. Bit of this, bit of that, good luck. Good luck with that. If you want that thing to build company value, you have to retain your best talent. To retain your best talent, you have to give them the right incentives, and you have to follow through, and you have to lay it out clearly. And if you do all those things, you're a chance of having forever wealth. Anyway, that is my view. But I understand and totally agree that when it goes wrong, my God, it can go wrong.
Yeah, because it can end up just scorching the earth.
And for years, it salts the earth, like you say.
Yeah.
So that was a good segment. So we agree.
I think that we have both tempered our views with the other's perspective.
Yes. I think we've slowly educating ourselves. I wonder do this arm wrestle. We'll check in 5 years' time and see where we are.
Give all the shares away.
Just gift them.
Yeah, just gift them. Just give them. Don't have an agreement. It's fine.
Okay, I would like to do a little fun segment, because you were going to think of something you want to talk about, but you haven't yet. So I'm going to do a little fun segment. I've got a little piece of paper here.
It's been a really busy week.
It's been a very busy week. We haven't planned it all. Stats that will blow your mind.
Okay, I like this.
It is estimated that 70,000 years ago, there were between 1 and 10,000 people only on the planet.
I feel like, is this a test where you've made some things up and you...
No. I
So
believe
how
this
many
to be
years ago?
70,000 years ago.
That makes sense. I mean, that
because of volcanic action or activity or something, like the human population shrunk to less than 10,000.
I believe that. That makes sense. I'm not shocked by that. It doesn't blow my mind.
You ready for the next one?
I'm ready.
Fruit Loops are all the same flavour.
Sugar.
Yeah, no, but they're different colour, but they're all the same flavour.
You know, our little one was having Smarties the other day.
Yes.
And she reckoned that they all tasted different. Now, I can't eat Smarties, but it's been
because of the gluten.
But it's been a long time since I don't recall them having different flavours.
Jerry Seinfeld did a bit on this when he said that, the brown one is like an after dinner one, and this one that when you're a kid, the different flavours, colours of the M&M are different flavour. No, they're all the same flavour.
M&Ms. But Smarties.
Oh, no, everything. I'm 100% sure they're the same flavour, but don't quote me. We'll fact check that. Anyway, next.
By taste testing.
A cloud weighs around 1 million tons.
No, it doesn't.
It does.
How big? How big a cloud?
1 cubic kilometre in size.
Oh, okay. Is that how big a cloud is?
Yeah, but because of the lightness of it's slightly lighter than air, which is why it floats.
What's the study of clouds called?
Cumulonimbuli. It's a nimble operation. A chicken once lived for 18 months without a head. 18 months. Why were there chickens with any heads?
Was this in some
horrible... Why are we even leaving heads on chickens?
Why is this in some horrible lab? Like, how do we know that?
They became prime minister of a country,
I don't like that one.
There are more bacterial cells in your body than human cells.
Yeah, I knew that one.
But they're so light, they only make up 0.3% of your...
Pretty cool.
Crazy. The longest a person held their breath underwater is 24.5 minutes. And that was me the last time I was in the pool with the kids because they wouldn't stop talking.
Just went under to hide.
And that was that. I didn't come back up.
Who was that?
I don't know.
And what was the context? Did they win an award?
A lot of deep research here, Laura.
Should we bring in our almanacs of all the Guinness Book of Records that we've accumulated over the years?
We have many, but we should just bring in the special one that's like underwater times, like people being underwater. That
sounds so interesting. I am just thrilled at that idea.
Write down more ideas. Have we got anything else to talk about today?
I don't know. Well, you know what we're going to talk about? And it actually comes back to why we're unprepared for today.
Yes.
And that
Planning.
was about planning our
God, yeah.
times
Yes.
and our days. And I actually don't even know how you do it.
Okay, so I've tried a lot of things. Yes, go on.
Like you've got to go like zoom out. Don't be like per hour or day.
No,
even the week.
I'll tell the truth. Like I will say that historically, okay, so for instance, as a kid, I was hopeless at planning. Like it's funny when 15-year-olds going through it now with study, and I was hopeless at it.
Yeah.
I didn't understand how to set goals. I didn't understand how to structure anything. I didn't understand. And my father used to say to me correctly, you don't live day to day, you live hour to hour. And he was right. I was living literally hour to hour until I was like nearly 30. Right? Now the hours got less crazy and stupid.
Yeah.
I got smarter, but I was not planning properly until probably 30.
Yeah.
Now you say it's funny.
It is funny to me.
But I would work insane hours, and then I would just be like going from one. I hated being boxed into things 2-3 weeks in advance. Like I used to start to get and I had high anxiety about a lot of things. So I felt like not planning was in a way, not locking myself in this stranglehold.
Got it.
Right. So, but of course that was so stupid. That was in fact the opposite of the truth. And it is the planning that gives you the freedom. Does that make sense?
Yes.
If you don't plan, you're at the mercy of 50 different things. If you plan, you can't, of course, plan for everything, but if you plan correctly, then you're a fighting chance. And you can say, all right, I know where I've got to be. I know where I'm going to be. I don't have to think about it anymore and relitigate it. So how do I plan? Still not well. It's not my strong suit. I will set meetings for the week. If, I have leadership coaching sessions, I'll have client meetings, I'll have sports games, gym, and we put all that in the diary. And then there'll be anything else that's relevant. I've got a flight here, I've got this, that's in there. And then I start to go prioritize. I've got day lists that I work off that might have
a day list.
I've got a day list that might have 3, 4, 5 key things.
When do you write that list? The night before?
No, it might. I reckon I call it a day list, but it's probably a 3-day list in reality. It's probably like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and probably Monday, Thursday, if I'm honestly true. So Monday, I will write a list that is a day list, but it's probably a 3 or 4 day list. And if I knock all the things off, then I'll do another one.
Yeah.
But then I've got a long list of 20, 30 things, and things like it might be a program that I'm working on. And like right now I'm doing a 15,000 word program. That's like exhausting, but I'm doing like 45 minutes a day. I'm still a bit of a hot mess. I'm still not perfect at it.
Do you plan when you're going to do that 45 minutes?
No, that I don't do. And so I'll pick that up when I've lost momentum on something else.
Yep.
And I'm pretty good. I don't sit there for an hour like mucking around losing. I'll find something useful to do. Like I do a lot of video editing. I do a lot of that sort of stuff as well. So look, it's not exactly how I'd like it. And it's funny because I'm coaching people on this and I've legitimately helped like 4 or 5 people who are much worse at it than me to get a lot better at it. But still, I'm not where I want to be. You, on the other hand.
You're giving me anxiety. I'm listening. I'm just like, you're just rolling around.
That's not rolling around. I've got everything that I need in my diary. And then I'm doing blocks of work that I know what I'm doing. But there'll be gaps sometimes. I'll leave like creativity gaps, like Rick Rubin style, and allow
Rubin.
No, he's all right. He's all right.
Yeah, he's fine. But I'm just agitated because I've wasted time reading half of his books before I realized he was just saying the same thing over and over.
It's a nice looking book though.
I get really angry when I read a book I don't like. I don't know why. Anyway, that's off topic. That's for another
So
time.
my planning is not as effective as yours, but it is, I would say, 70% effective. What about you, Racky? How's your planning
I
go?
love talking about these sorts
I know. We're in Laura Racky hitting zone.
But
tell me about what you're like in primary school with planning.
Well, let's just give context though, right? It's only in the last few years that I've discovered why I have to so heavily plan and sort and control things. And that's because if I am not completely on top of these things, I have a lot of trouble managing everything.
Yes. Anxiety and like real crushing.
Right?
Yeah, for both of us.
Or just trouble focusing, trouble getting tasks done, not in any way that it actually would impact anything because I've got real drivers to get things done.
Yeah. Fear and anxiety
But I didn't realize how much I had created scaffolding in my life with all of the ways that I do things. So look, it's hard for me. A lot of my business hours, the meetings, I don't get a lot of say in when those things happen because it's just on availability.
Clients here, clients there. Yep.
When people need to talk to me, meetings need to happen, that's when they need to happen. So that all
So this
goes
is
in the
horrible
diary.
for you.
I don't like that, but that's just the reality. I have to live with it.
But can I stop you? What you have done well is you've asked people, can you book in advance if you can?
Yes.
Like you've been pretty good with that.
Yes. So then on a Sunday night, I make you come to the sit down with me, and I know you really enjoy that.
No, I fully understand. I do enjoy it, right?
And we look at.
I just think it's a bit more performative than it needs to be.
No, I just need you to see it. I need to just have a sounding board.
You said to me last week, I want you to be enthusiastic about this conversation. I was like, I'm enthusiastic about this planning. It's like we're planning, 30 things, 40 things for the week between us, right? And you're like, I want you to be enthusiastic about this. I'm like, I'm happy to be doing this. This is useful.
Yes.
It controls my anxiety too.
Yes.
But this is not an exciting thing to do.
It's exciting for me. So on a Sunday, I will look at the online diary.
Yeah.
And you and I share anything that's outside of business hours we've got in each other's diary. So when I'm going to a class, when you're going to the gym or basketball, all the kids' stuff, who's dropping who off, all that sort of thing. Kids' activities, appointments, that's all shared.
It's some doing.
So we look at all of that. And then I start working out when I'm going to go to my Pilates classes.
Yes.
That's high priority.
So the key question to me from you, which is correct, is have you got all your sport and everything in the diary?
Yeah, I want to know where you are.
Because you need to know where it's all laid out before you can then start.
And then the fun begins, right? So then I plug all of that in. That gets plugged in on the Outlook calendar.
Mm-hmm.
This could bore the shit out of some people, but I find this really
interesting. This is life-saving for people.
Then I have a A4 weekly planner.
Yeah.
And it's a really good one. I think it was Kiki K. I bought like 6 of them because I'm once I start a system and then they don't sell the thing anymore.
You get very anxious.
It's very stressful. So anyway, it's going to last me like a couple of years, this bundle.
Come on.
And then I put all of those activities in writing across the week.
Yes.
At the bottom of that, I have my rolling life admin tasks.
Yes.
Like this one needs the dentist booked. We need to go and get blood tests that we've needed to get for 6 months. All of that stuff goes down the bottom. So that all gets mapped out for the week. Then separately.
Oh, I know this. This is funny.
Separately, I have a small, what is it, B1? Is that the size of it's like half an A4?
I'm not exactly sure.
Then I have a B1 note where I list all of my work WIP. So any open matter is listed on there. So nothing gets lost. And I know all of the client files that are active and things are happening. Then I separately have another one where I list all my leasing work for the month, which is a big part of my practice. And then I have this little notebook that's like it's half, and oh my God, they're like little babies of each.
They are. It's like a babushka doll.
And then that one is like for the next day.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll write that one the night before. And what I have tried to do is I look at what's happening before and after work hours, what's booked in for work hours. And then I look at my WIP and I say, well, what can I realistically achieve?
Yep.
What I used to do was write like everything down.
Yes, I remember we both would.
That I had to do.
So stupid.
And guess what you end up doing?
Nothing.
Easiest, fastest thing. That's right. And then you never get to the big chunky
Sits at the bottom for days, yeah.
So sometimes if I've got a 3-4 hour task, I just have to put that as the only thing I'm going to do that day. What's the expression?
Eat the frog.
Eat the frog. That will be the only thing I will put on my to-do list for the day, work-wise, because I know I'm going to have the phone calls, the meetings, the urgent emails, and if I put 5 other things there, then just forget it. Nothing's going to get done. So I list that. Then I'll list the running schedule of the day. You're right there.
Someone ring me, of course.
Just make sure it's not a school.
No, it's all right.
The running list of the day. And then I've got like the life admin for the day that I want to do. Like, go to Mecca.
Well, whatever you're going to do.
Use those nearly, expired bananas.
But you earn that time by saying. So it's interesting you say, I would say for both of us, like my anxiety levels let's say my anxiety levels at 19 were 1,000.
Yeah.
And my anxiety levels at 30 were 500.
Yes.
They're now less than 100.
That's pretty
right?
amazing.
And part of that, a big part of that, is planning.
Yes.
There's other parts of that which I'm happy to talk about another day, but I was of this thought that not having plans was freedom, right? Not being locked in was freedom. And I couldn't have been more wrong.
Yeah, but you've got to have that flexibility to know that, like,
you got to know where your limit is of what you can be planned for. And you have to be able to say no to people, right?
Right, but you can't be rigid and then get stressed every time you get taken off course, because that's inevitable.
Right.
My clients tease me because they say they could set their clocks by, like, if I have you booked for 11,
you'll be there.
Your phone will ring at 11.
And 11:03 if they're not there? How you feeling about that right there?
That's a problem for me. I move on. I'm like, oh, well.
Can I tell you, sometimes I used to go, when I used to, be obviously before all the teams and all that, like I was obviously out a lot more. I would go and meet new clients, right? And such was my anxiety about being out in the world. I would go to these meetings that really were of no consequence. Thought they were, but they were. I'd be sitting in the waiting room or the reception. The meeting's at 11 o'clock. I was there 10 to 11. And at 11:05, no one's shown up. I'm like, that's it. I'm leaving. Right? I can't handle this anymore. I can't. No. But it's like every minute that was past start time, I'd be like twitching, right? So I don't know what was going on. That doesn't happen anymore. I don't really care. But in my 20s, I liked that. It was like if it was 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 9 minutes, I'm like, I'm leaving. And sometimes I left. Right? Right?
Yeah.
And I don't know what drove that. Like, it wasn't a conscious thing that drove that. It wasn't like, oh, these people are disrespectful being late. I mean, I understand people are late. I never cared about that. But it was like this building anxiety that would just start piling up, and I couldn't avoid it. It just kept going up. And in the end, sometimes I had to leave.
Yeah.
Because such was the anxiety. I remember a situation where I was in a meeting where a client owed us money. And I think it was the first time I actually ever got hay fever in my life. I was like 30 years old, and I'm sweating and sneezing. They owed us money, and it was a serious conversation, right?
Yeah.
And I kept having to leave. And so my anxiety's kicking up as my hay fever's kicking up. First time I've ever had hay fever at 30 years old in my life. I don't even know what it is. And I was just sweating everywhere and sneezing. Coming back. Every fight, we got the money, of course. I think that was
Maybe that was a good strategy. That's right.
Using that strategy.
They were like, this guy's lost it.
But the structure, the planning that I hated is what set me free, is in truth.
Yeah.
In the end.
Yeah.
And it's funny, it set me free and it saved your life. Like without it.
Yes.
You're not a happy, like you're not in a good place at all without it.
No. And look, I have the thing that I'm still working on is when things go off the rails, not letting it derail me, literally, because it can. Because if I'm like, this is what I have to do today, these are the things that are happening, these are the calls, and then
something changes.
That is very difficult for me. And I have to like really consciously change gears and say, it's okay. It's going to be okay.
Well, it goes back in a way to like that Eckhart Tolle sort of thinking that like all these thoughts enter your mind and for a lot of people that say it's a different prompt.
Yeah.
But whatever your day, your week is turned upside down, and then a flood of emotions enter your brain, right? And if you imagine them as a waterfall going down on one side and your identity on the other side, you on the other side, there's all these thoughts that are in your head. None of them are real, because in the end, like let's say your data gets derailed. What are you really losing? Nothing.
No one's going to die.
You ring 2 clients, you go, listen, by the way, we've got to do this tomorrow. They're like, yeah, no worries, good, I'm busy. Like in reality, but the emotional response can be drowning.
Yeah.
And so the ability to watch those thoughts go by, the Eckhart Tolle thinking of letting it go by and then just letting it subside and go, okay, none of this is real. None of these feelings are real. This anxiety is not real. Let it go by. Take your time.
Yes.
Nobody's dying.
And, just to stop and actually focus on the task at hand rather than get flustered. But that's why I think getting realistic and learning to be much narrower in what I set out to achieve each day.
That was a big deal for you.
Because it's just like, why was I waking up every day thinking I was going to have total control over my work day? Because it's not possible,
No.
because life happens and clients need you and things pop up and there's emergencies that need phone calls and meetings that
But then there's
are
other things,
unplanned.
real life stuff, outside of work stuff. Things happen, like you
Yeah.
pop a tire in your car and you can't get, or whatever, right? Things happen. And I used to get like you derailed by that stuff. It used to be like, like the whole,
Oh, the day's ruined.
no, the years,
Um,
the life is ruined. Everything's
but-
ruined, right? Oh my God, this whole thing's ruined. And I don't want to go all the way the other way and be like, you're at your birthday party and your birthday cake falls on the ground. You're like, yeah, well, whatever. Like some people will get like really upset by that sort of
Yep.
thing, or something, like I say, the tire. But I don't want to go all the way the other way, that nothing is nothing, everything is nothing. But it's like that, what's the word I'm looking for? Nihilistic view that, oh, well, whatever, nothing, everything's nothing. But if you're getting yourself anchored to things not working out perfectly that you can't control anyway, you're going to live a life of hell.
Yep.
Right?
But just back on like the whole concept of planning, and I know we're just talking about us and our personal experience.
We're very weird people, yes.
I know we're very weird people, but I think it makes so much, given how busy we are, and if you don't have those conversations like on the Sunday night where it's like, right, are we aligned? Do we know? I know it's in the diary, but let's just run it by
Just
each other.
touch point each one, say, is that real? Is that still there?
And
Is that there?
to me, it just makes our life much more seamless, because you know where you've got to be at 4:00 on a Wednesday. I know where I've got to be. We're not having to have these constant administrative
Yes.
conversations.
Yes.
Like if I have blocked out that I'm not doing pickup on Thursday, I know that's it. I've got those hours in the office and I'm not having to remind you, hey.
And you're never surprised. There's no call from the school going, no one's turned up to pick up with you.
Oh my God, that's my worst nightmare.
Let me come back to the second reason for doing it. And I hadn't thought of it until right this very moment. Is that...
So you're going to sit down with me on Sunday and enjoy it?
No. Oh, of course. I mean, yes. Is that like we're in it together. Like you're in it together. And this is with your business partner. This is with your spouse. This is with your kids. Like you're planning study or whatever for your kids. Like you're bloody in it together. And it's like, yeah, we need to do this. And I'm going here and you're going there. If we're just like ships in the night and we don't know, we might know technically what each other's doing. But if you're not in a little way invested in, oh, you can't do school pickup on Thursday. Okay, I got it. Let's say, what are you up to? Oh, I'm off to see this person, like I'm going to have a lunch with a friend I haven't seen for a year. Oh, amazing, right?
Yep.
Say hi and I'm excited for you or whatever. Or I've got this speaking at this thing, or I'm going to this function.
The kids like it too, actually. They like knowing, like
What
our
you up
little
to?
one likes to know who's picking me up. Those,
Wants to know what we're wearing before we get there.
And the big one now, he has a social life. So he wants to know, well,
when we're not picking you up,
when
so
am
he
I
can
free?
find his little gaps.
When am I not locked into some family commitment so that I
when can I get on a tram and, just
go and live my life? So like they're the texts I get now where it's like, hey, Mum, are we free on Saturday, the, 6th of whatever?
Yeah, he's planning weeks ahead of us. He's like, oh, I've got a shift to work, or there's some mates want to go to this concert. And he's actually ahead of us in planning now.
Is he?
Yes.
I don't know about that.
He's 2 weeks ahead of us in planning.
Timing-wise, yeah.
For things that he wants to do.
But I wouldn't say that any of the plans get developed very well until like the last minute.
Yeah, no, he's like a save the date guy. He's a save the date guy. It's like on the 7th of November.
That's true. Sometimes I'm just like,
I've
why
got this
are you
thing.
asking
And
me
it's
this
like,
now?
are you serious, man? Like, how about the 7 o'clock today?
As much as we're sitting here like, oh, we're so good at planning.
We're horrible.
Horrible. And, you talked about that in advance. Like my mum will call and she'll be like, now next Wednesday, I was thinking I'll drive. I'm like, dude.
Isn't it funny?
Mum, ask me on Sunday night. Like I am just getting through today and then
But that derails us when people are like that.
For later.
God, what dates do you need help with this? Like
That's
skitzing if we have to. No, ask us on Sunday at 7 p.m. when we're doing our thing, right? We're doing our list.
Yeah.
And then we'll send you the...
But, I was thinking today, like, I'm doing the Artist's Way and the morning pages, which we'll talk about another time. And
it's unreal.
For some reason today, my brain started blurting out this concept of like surrender and release and allowing, instead of this, I've got to try, I've got to be more like this. It's actually like, no, I have to be less like that. and just let.
Yes.
And so,
Because you can't control any of it.
right. But part of the planning and it being busy and there being a flow to the day kind of has gotten me into this mindset of like I almost feel like when I get up in the morning, like I'm getting on a roller coaster. So I kind of have a feel of like where the dips and the, like, I know what it looks like from the ground, right? That
Yeah.
it's going to be like,
Yeah.
but when you get on a roller coaster, like you can't get off and you're not in control anymore. So it's like, woo.
We've done the planning.
I
We've laid
kind
out
of,
where it's going to go, and then let's hope that it
this is
goes.
probably like the last 6 months. And now I just enjoy this like craziness of the day, but not in any frantic, manic way. Just like, cool, woohoo, what am I doing now? Okay, yep. Da, 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 da. And
But without
instead
that
of,
planning, it would be much worse.
right, but instead of being like, oh my God, like, how am I supposed to fit this in before this thing? Blah, 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 blah. I'm just like, cool, where's this taking me now? What have I got on next? All right, right. What did I say I was going to do in between those two calls? Yep. Da, da, da. Like, I'm on this part of the,
And then the loco, and then the Pilates.
Well,
but see, you couldn't do the Pilates without the planning.
No, you
Right?
can't just like,
Right? And I don't know if
maybe in the future.
I don't know if I envy or not these people who can just meander along without a plan and just be like happy days.
Yeah.
And somehow they've just got this sort of equilibrium that allows them to be in the right place at the right time. I don't know what that feels like to be like. If it's not in, like I'll be standing somewhere at 7:00 on a Tuesday and I'll have to open my diary to know what I'm supposed to be doing in the next half an hour. I'm no shit. I can't.
But that's a good
retain
thing
it.
too, because it's not in your brain.
It's
You
true.
can't
It's like
keep
a
that
cloud.
stuff in your
It's
brain.
like a cloud for my computer brain.
Yeah.
And recall, as you know, is one of my weakest.
And that's actually the other thing. Like if someone asks me and I'm not on the phone.
So what are you doing on the thing? I asked my mother, what are you doing on this date? She's like, yeah, we're here. I'm like, what?
How do you know that?
How can you know that? She's like, I got my little book. And I'm like, what?
No,
I don't know. I honestly, right this moment, I have to think for 5 seconds before I know what day it is.
if you ask me what I have on tomorrow,
Yeah.
no idea.
What have I got on tomorrow, Laura?
No idea. And if you ask me like at 8:30 tonight, I can tell you.
Got it.
I'm just
But that's
myopic.
because you got it out of your brain.
Well, what benefit of knowing what's on tomorrow is
More anxiety. How good? It's a drive. It's a fuel.
it's tomorrow's problem.
Didn't have any tyrosine today. Okay.
I keep, since the little one started school, I've had this like dream that I would be able to have Fridays off.
Ha 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 ha.
I'm like, I've been so efficient all these
Getting
years.
close. I think you're getting close.
Been so efficient. Like maybe if I really am focused in the Monday to Thursday, I can get everything done. And it's nearly the end of the term one, and
You'll get
like
there.
I'm
You'll get there.
I'm no chance right now.
You'll get there though. You will get there.
I just, even if it's like I get online for a few hours and then just like, I don't know, finish at 2.
Yes, that's what you're going to do. That's what I'm going to do from next week.
Maybe the week
Okay,
after.
so planning. I say we've done a long way of saying that we're trying very hard at it. We're much better at it. It saves our life from anxiety, but we're still nowhere near as good as we need to be.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else you want to talk about today?
I know, Christian.
Does Christian know? Does Laura know? Real Housewives, outfits, nutrition. Is there anything left? You know, we did a poll after the first episode and we put like 6 different things to, what do you want us to talk about? Every one of them was equal in votes. So it's like, is there anything you want to?
I'm trying to think of anything exciting or fun that like.
Nothing Real Housewives going on. No one going to jail.
No, Atlanta is back on.
Okay.
We're watching White Lotus. We're excited about that.
That is very good. We're not going to, no spoilers because people are actually watching it, but we watched the latest episode. That was very, very odd.
And I was telling you about that TikTok that I'd seen, or maybe a friend had sent it to me, that said, if you're not a busybody, don't bother with White Lotus. It's only for busybodies. Because you said you want to know more about all of the characters.
So one of the judgments for me of, and you know, like I'm a movie buff and like good TV.
Yes.
Like I don't like crap TV. Good TV. White Lotus definitely qualifies as that. One measure for me of whether something's a good show is, am I interested in the characters beyond what I'm getting, right? And
how do you even have that sort of like conscious, critical thought about just a show?
I've always been like that. I've always been like that. Like I know it's weird.
So you're sitting there going,
I'm watching. I think I said to you last night, the cinematography in this is unbelievable.
Are you actually having those conscious thoughts while you're
I can have 5, when I'm watching a show or a movie, I can have 4 different sets of thoughts going at a time. the dialogue,
tired thinking of it.
but like, because I used to write a lot and I, of course, ripped all of it up and threw it all away. I've written whole scripts, movies, or like, and ripped it up because I hated it and thrown it away. That's probably, in retrospect, the first draft of anything you do is terrible, and
Yes.
you should do it.
Yes.
It's an iterative game. But anyway, so I would love the dialogue, the characters, the background of the characters. You know, as soon as I see like an actor I like, I'm like looking at their previous work, I'm looking at their age, look at where they grew up, where they came from, how they get there. Like, I've got all that going on. And White Lotus, so far this season, more so even than the others, is a perfect show.
Yeah.
It is a perfect show. It's perfectly cast.
Yes.
Perfectly.
Yes.
Sam Rockwell last night, I'm not saying anything, but who knows where that leads. But this is a perfect TV show.
No, it's really well done.
It's not as good as Sopranos and Breaking Bad and these like super, 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 super duper all-time great
But
shows.
don't forget, those shows have seasons and seasons to build and develop. This is short.
It's a different thing, and they're doing a new.
You can't compare them.
Well,
No, you can't.
you can.
They're different. I would say they're totally different genres.
Well, they're entirely different genres, but we're
Miniseries.
talking elite TV. This is second tier. This is not this is not the best of the best of the best, but it is, as far as TV goes, it's close to as good as it gets. It's
I don't
near
think about
perfect.
any of those things. I just think, am I transported? Am I enjoying this?
You want to go on that holiday. That's where you want to go.
Oh, it's amazing. Am I not irritated? You know, how many shows have just gone in a particular way and I'm just like, I can't watch this crap anymore.
All of them?
What was the latest one? Was The Diplomat.
Yeah, well, see, but that's not elite TV. That's
No,
junk
I know,
TV.
but we were fine. It was just meandering along. It was fine. And then The Diplomat started just frothing at the mouth at the foreign,
The Treasury.
running around
There's another
in,
foreign
in
secretary.
back rooms during 4th of July parties to chase him around. And I'm like, this is actually embarrassing to watch.
Yeah,
Turn it off. I don't want
Probably
to watch it anymore.
accurate, but how it would work. But you don't think that's going
Are
on?
you right?
International politics?
No,
But it's nonsense. It's unwatchable.
no, the reason I hated it is because she's a powerful,
I see
interesting
what you're saying.
woman.
I see.
And then she's got the hots for this guy.
And it's thrown her whole professionalism out the window, which obviously wouldn't happen.
Shows that
right?
do that.
Obviously
It just
wouldn't
makes
happen.
me
Yes.
so angry.
Yeah, because they built her up to be a very good character.
And
Anyway, we're way off
The
track.
reality is, it's the blokes doing all those stupid things.
That's
to
true.
you.
What other shows, like you do not like most shows?
I generally don't want to feel anything or have to think. No, I don't want to be upset. I don't want to be stressed. Like you're watching Mr. In Between
With the
with
young
their
one?
eldest.
Yeah.
I just can, the underlying.
Very good show. Probably the best Australian show ever
tension.
made. It's
I can respect that it is good, like very well done, good
Uh-huh.
acting, good everything. I can see it. I don't want to watch it. I don't want to feel worried about him, his girlfriend, his daughter. Like, please.
They've got enough going on without having to add to it with drama. All right. What about last thing? And then we're going to let everyone get on with their lives.
I really want another coffee. So, yeah, let's go.
Why is Real Housewives then? Is that like that you can put your brain in neutral?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's just totally pointless.
It is like, yeah. But it's very interesting. Like
It's
people
interesting,
will
but it's
mock
also
it, but it's
familiar.
interesting.
And depending on where it is, like some of them, I love their clothes, their houses. Not all of them. Some of them, just like, get a stylist, please. Make this interesting for my eyes. But it's just mindless. You can be on the phone while it's on in the background. Like,
Weren't we nearly in the Real Housewives business?
what?
Conversation for another day. We're close. It was a close one.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You'll remember when you think about it.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's it for today. You got anything else you want to raise from?
No,
Let's just
I
start.
think it's
Big
been
group hug was fantastic day. We absolutely loved it. Thank you so much to everybody who contributed. Honestly, like it is life changing stuff, and it all like will float for a whole year on that.
No, it's next. On to the
no,
next.
but the joy will drive us
So
for
much
a whole
joy,
year.
but there's so much work to do.
All right, so we've already moved on. You're planning the
Are
next
you
thing.
shocked?
No.
Anyway, it's been an amazing week. Hopefully next week we can have half an hour together to plan our conversation. But I would like, maybe we'll throw it out there on the socials for our
What do you want us to talk about?
hundreds of fans.
Yes.
Literally, maybe there's a life question or a work question or a parenting
They
question.
want to see us fight over.
Well, there's lots of things that we could argue or disagree over. We don't fight.
No, we don't. We do disagree though. On a few things.
Yeah.
Like gypsies walking down the middle of the road.
Like, as you love to throw at me, and actually I forgot about this, facts versus feelings.
I don't say it exactly like that. I think there is a difference. Do you want me to delve into this, or do you want to leave this for another day?
No, you don't have to delve into it. But I actually realize that it's a part of what you perceive as being my feelings is actually just my language that I think maybe I've been indoctrinated over my life to use.
That's possible.
And in fact, when I think about the things that I'm feeling, I'm right and it's real. So, like,
We're going to need an episode to unwind that one line. No, okay. So yes, I'm a huge I'm a massive fan of feelings driven because your instinct, your gut tells you the truth most of the time.
yes,
And the more experienced you get, the more reliable your feelings are,
Yeah.
right? But I think, well, the psychological studies back it up is that, you know, there's one or two standard deviations between women and men, facts versus feelings, things versus feelings. And well, a lot of women are in like care industries and a lot of men are in hands industry. Like there is a gap. Well,
Oh, yeah,
Mars,
that's
Venus,
fine, but I
right?
think that
There's a gap in the way that, and that's not to say that there isn't a massive overlap. There's a massive overlap.
but separate to what you're talking about, that's what maybe men and women might be on average more interested in.
Yes.
But I think it's wrong to say that men live in facts and women live in feelings.
No, I'm
I
not
think
saying that. I'm not saying that.
some things that men
Don't gaslight me. I'm not saying that.
Oh.
What I'm saying is there's a massive overlap.
yes,
But on average, men are more likely to look at a linear answer to something, where women are more likely to follow the feeling first, where men are looking at the information
so we're
first.
probably more likely to be right because the gut is always right.
100%.
And also, maybe there's things that you label as being linear or logical that's actually driven by what properly should be called a feeling, but you've just never identified.
I
as a
agree,
feeling.
and an inability for the male to have to feel that feeling.
Yeah.
Like there's a reason that, oh God, this is a deep topic, but there's lots behind this. But so a lot of males will say, well, this is a fact and that's a feeling because they're incapable of having that feeling, let's say.
Yeah.
Right? They've blocked it out, or they've got this stoic type fake situation where they won't allow it in, right? And so that's a factor. And another factor is that that women and men will plan differently, for argument's sake. Like, let's say, and a guy will think for themselves and a woman will have the mental load of kids and all this other stuff, right? That a lot of guys don't even know exists. And so it's like when it's the fifth time something's happened and the woman is saying, what the hell, and getting angry about it, it's like, well, mate, if you understood what was in that woman's head and how much she's dealing with and how much she's carrying, you would understand why there's
So you're saying it's
feelings,
not so the feeling has kicked off after something logical. I think we've gone way off track.
Okay.
We've been going for a very long time.
Yeah, I think we probably should wind this up.
I'm really hungry.
Should we pick
I
this topic
really
up
need a
next time
coffee.
or never? Okay, let's have a coffee. Thank you.
So hang on, let's just work out what it is that we've left open so that we can talk about it next time.
No, let's try and start it again next time because this was pretty much a burnt segment, I think. Like, I really think that we might have to, it might be in post, I might cut it
No,
out.
I
It was
think
that
leave
bad.
it in and let's get some feedback and then talk about something actually interesting.
There's a psychological element that men and women are statistically separated by caring about people or caring about things.
Yep.
Right? That's, I think the literature on that's crystal clear. There's a second part is the mental load on women is totally different on average, the mental load on men. So no surprise that there's more irateness around certain things happening or not happening. So there's that. And then there is maybe women are more predisposed to feeling, in inverted commas, and men are more predisposed to like linear
They're just more
solutions.
evolved, actually.
Is that, I mean, obviously that's the case. That is the case, but I'm saying that like there's those separate things mean that maybe getting to the same answer might be different.
Mm-hmm.
Like the man might go straight to it where the woman might want to
Yeah.
feel their way to it, but they'll get to the same, or maybe it'll end up being that the woman's 60 or 40 right, but it starts somewhere else, right? And the feeling led, because you got to follow your gut, and your gut is almost always right if you listen to it. Have I dug up here or what?
That's pretty good.
Right.
You know what reaction you're always going to
I'm
get
just
from it.
sort of diffusing All right. Thank you for this episode. And to our fan, thank you very much. Thank you for Big Group Hug Double Donation Day. We're here at Call Me Jack Studios as always. And until next time.
Let's get a coffee.
Yes.